I am a Manchester United fan, and I really don't like Arsenal. But so do a lot of people. Now, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal are the biggest club in the country by in terms of their size, their history, their fan base. So naturally, they're going to be the three most spoken about clubs in the media because it's going to get the most clicks. They are the three clubs that will have the most level of hatred towards them because of their successes in the past, and they're going to bring in the most attention. But Arsenal are definitely the most hated club in football. Well, at least right now they are. The level of dislike towards Arsenal. We're going to break down why, but let's talk about Arsenal dislike. First of all, Saka versus Foden, the way they're perceived. Now, it's not just down to Arsenal dislike. You know, white players seem to get more love from the English media than black players. It doesn't take a genius to tell you that. But Foden will stink up 10, 11 games in a row. He'll drop one really good game, and all of a sudden he's generational, world-class talent, England's best young talent. Whereas Saka could have 10, 11, 12 really good games in a row. The minute it's a bad game, it's all people talk about. Saka was rubbish in this game. Saka's limping off faking an injury. But the truth is, and this is coming from a Man United fan, Saka is better than Foden. Foden has better PR. Foden gets much more positivity when he's good and much less negativity when he's bad. People are finally starting to call out Foden because he's never performed for England, whereas Saka has. And people are finally starting to call out Foden because when City have dropped off, Foden's gone missing. Saka was there when Arsenal was bad, scoring, assisting, pulling Arsenal up. You know, Saka, if England are bad, if Arsenal are bad, he will show up. Foden, he goes missing when his team drops off. He needs players around him to carry him. But Saka gets so much more stick for it. You've got Lewis Skelly called up for England, and considering Luke Shaw is injured, Lewis Hall is injured, well-deserved call up by Lewis Skelly. He's been great. I will say Jed Spence deserved to call up. Everyone can say Jed Spence deserved to call up. But Kyle Walker should have been dropped for Jed Spence because he can play right back and play left back. But there was more hate for Lewis Skelly being called up than there was for Kyle Walker, Jordan Henderson, even Jarrell Kwanzaa, who started 2 Premier League games. Bramthwaite could have been pulled up. Who would you have called up over Lewis Skelly? Jed Spence, but Jed Spence could have been called up over Kyle Walker. That's the big question about it. You know, why Jed Spence should have definitely been called up, but he could have been called up over Walker. You know, Bramthwaite could have been called up over Kwanzaa. But there was so much outrage and hate towards Lewis Skelly being called up for England when it was well deserved. Had Lewis Hall been fit, maybe he gets called up instead. But there was a lot of dislike towards that. And I think when it happened with Maino, when Maino got called up for England last year, people were really angry about it. He got so much stick. And I think it's like a jealousy thing. Oh, Man United's young talent gets called up. Arsenal's young talent gets called up. I think there's like a jealousy thing there. People were angry that Maino got called up over Harvey Elliott when they played different positions. And then there's the celebration police. Now, we will talk about Lewis Skelly later on in this video, but I like it. If Haaland gave it to Lewis Skelly saying, "Who the hell are you?" I like it when players give it back. I love it when players give it back. The Arda Güler Szoboszlai stuff, the Lamine Yamal stuff in this international break. I love it when players give it back. You know, Gabriel is a bit of a shithouse. And when he does that to Haaland, even though Arsenal have won 5-1 and played excellent, rather than the media praising Arsenal for being good, they just start going on about Lewis Skelly and Gabriel and creating a new rule and that they shouldn't be doing that and that it's disrespectful. But when Mope does it, when Jamie Vardy does it, they're legends. It's funny. You know, I remember that all the stick over Odegaard posing with the camera. Enjoy your wins. Celebrate your wins, you know. Celebrate and enjoy the good times because you don't know when a bad period's around the corner. I'm a Man United fan saying this. You know, Haaland was giving it all, telling Arteta to stay humble. Nothing about it. You know, praising City in a 2-2 draw where they were very lucky because Arsenal had 10 men. But Arsenal win 5-1, play City out the park. Instead of talking about how bad City were and how good Arsenal were. Why is Lewis Skelly doing that? Why is Gabriel doing that? There's definitely a new level of hatred towards Arsenal. Now, I think one of the more valid reasons for the dislike towards Arsenal from people online is the fan base. Now, this is just a small percentage of the Arsenal fan base. Every big club has accounts online that are kind of deluded and chat a load of rubbish and they bait people in and they get loads of interactions. But Arsenal fans online particularly are the loudest. You know, top managers try and get knocked out the Carabao Cup. I mean, Pep won 4 Carabao Cups in a row and won 3 Premier Leagues in that time. You know, disrespecting Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup when you've not won a trophy in 5 years. Saying Liverpool would be 5th if it wasn't for PGML, which is ridiculous because Liverpool on track for 93 points this season. Arsenal have never got 93 points ever in the Premier League. The highest points tally is 90. And also Liverpool, they got screwed over in the Everton game by Michael Oliver. I think the Aston Villa game, they got done dirty as well. There's been 2-3 games this season where Liverpool have been done dirty by VAR. Now, I think Arsenal have definitely been very unlucky with VAR decisions this season. I think 2 of the red cards they got were not red cards. There was 1 or 2 penalties given against them, which was soft, but Man United have had the exact same. Bruno Fernandes was wrongly sent off against Tottenham. The penalty against West Ham, it's not the VAR and the PGMO's corrupt against Arsenal. It's not corrupt against Arsenal. It's just crap. It's done Liverpool over. It's done United over. It's done Arsenal over so many times. But I think there's this Arsenal think it's just them that get screwed over, and they've been incredibly unlucky this season. And Man City have so much more luck than everybody else when it comes to decisions. And maybe that is because of an unconscious bias and hate towards United, Arsenal, and Liverpool from referees. It doesn't help that there is an unconscious bias there, maybe in referees because of the online perception and hate towards Arsenal. But I don't think it's corruption. I think it's idiocy, and I think there is an unconscious bias there. So that's one of the reasons people don't like Arsenal. Another reason is Mikel Arteta. Blaming the ball when Arsenal don't win. Always an excuse. A bad loser, a sore loser. He's not the most likeable manager. And, I can understand what Arsenal fans like him, tactically clever guy, but not the most likeable manager. Which brings me into 3 parts. Why does everybody hate Arsenal? The fans / Arteta. Now, this is not every Arsenal fan base. I know a lot of everyone in the Arsenal fan base, sorry. I know a lot of Arsenal fans that are very reasonable, that are very sound, and are not deluded, and know so much about the game and speak so well and so fairly. But every fan base has a portion of fans online that are annoying and, wind people up. And Arsenal just seem to have a larger section of them. Arteta doesn't come across the best. There's the jealousy thing. I'm jealous of Arsenal. I am. I support Manchester United. And when Arsenal are doing well, I am jealous. And I want to hate on it. And I want to bring them down. But you just have to be honest and say, well, they're good. This time last year, Arsenal were incredible. They took Man City to the final day. They were absolutely incredible last season. Gabriel Saliba was unplayable. Declan Rice was brilliant. Raya was brilliant. Ben White was ridiculously good as well, incredibly underrated. But Bukayo Saka, fantastic. Odegaard was a lot better. Havertz had a good second half of the season. And I think people don't like to praise Arsenal when they're good, but when they're bad, they love to jump on it. Because there's a jealousy thing. I think United, Arsenal, Liverpool being the biggest clubs in the world, they're going to attract noise. They're going to attract dislike. And yeah, I felt threatened by Arsenal when they're good. I don't like Arsenal. I don't like being proven wrong. I like to give Arsenal stick, and then when a player that I give stick to ends up being really good, of course you don't want to be proven wrong. So yeah, I was jealous of Arsenal last season. I was jealous of how they were playing. So I have a bitterness towards it. But I try not to let that impact what I say in my videos. And then there's a media agenda. You get this with United, you get this with Liverpool. But as I said, Gabriel and Lewis Skelly will get criticised for celebrating too much or winding people up with their celebrations, and it was called unsportsmanlike. But if Vardy did it, if Mopé did it, they're praised. When Haaland does it, it's praised. And I get that, look, Arsenal haven't won a Premier League. They haven't won a Champions League. And people can say to them, pipe down, quieten down. I get that. But it's the hypocrisy. There was more outrage of Lewis Skelly being picked than maybe someone like a Kwanzaa that started 2 Premier League games. It was crazy. Now, we're going to start by talking about the fan base. We're going to then talk about jealousy, and then we're going to talk about the media agenda against Arsenal and 3 reasons people don't like Arsenal. Talking about number 1, the fan base. So I was in this video with Sak Jalab. Go watch Sak Jalab's video, and every Premier League fan was basically asked to rank who has the most annoying fan base. And surprise, surprise, Arsenal were picked first. And I think that's why a lot of people online, on Twitter, just won't like Arsenal, because that's what they see. They're the most annoying. And a lot of the reasons for disliking Arsenal as a Man United fan is because we've got a rivalry there. Man United, Tottenham and Chelsea all have a deep dislike for Arsenal because there's a long-term rivalry there. Liverpool have a dislike for Arsenal because they were dismissed by Arsenal fans at the beginning of the season as not serious title contenders. Even after 5-6 games into the season, Arsenal fans were like, we're more scared of City than Liverpool. Liverpool drop off. And they were constantly belittled by Arsenal fans in this title race. So then when Liverpool were clear and ahead in the title race, all of a sudden it's luck. Liverpool would be 5th if it wasn't for VAR, which is disrespectful. It's all of a sudden it's luck. All of a sudden, not giving credit to how good Liverpool have been, it's luck. Have Liverpool had more luck with us than Arsenal with injuries? Absolutely. Arsenal have been incredibly unlucky with injuries. Arsenal definitely have 1 or 2 red cards that shouldn't have been given. And if that wasn't the case, the title race would be a lot closer. But Liverpool on track for 93 points. Arsenal have never got 93 points in a single season. So even without the red cards and even without the injuries, Arsenal would have to be playing absolutely incredible stuff, getting more points than they did last season to win the league with the way that Liverpool are playing. So there was a bit of disrespect towards Liverpool. So Liverpool fans don't like them. Newcastle fans don't like them because some Arsenal fans act as if Isak is theirs. Like Isak is already an Arsenal player. The constant Isak talk, like they can just walk in and sign Gordon, Isak or Bruno Guimaraes. City don't like the new rivalry between Arsenal and City. They feel that it's forced. City feel like Arsenal are forcing a new rivalry with them, and the two are the matches are bitter. And other clubs just say, look, Arsenal have had their fair share of bad luck. They've had unlucky records, they've had unlucky injuries, but whenever they lose, there's always an excuse. It's not actually the opposition was better than us, it's VAR's fault. It's VAR's fault. If so and so wasn't injured. There's always an excuse, and you just got to say, right then, on the day, we might have missed this player, we might have not looked at that decision, but actually, they might have been the better team, or you might have not taken your chances, or maybe you should have signed a striker in the summer. So there's that aspect. Arteta losing Carabao Cup game, blame the ball. Newcastle were just brilliant. Like Newcastle tactically outplayed Arsenal. Maybe if Arsenal had Isak and Gordon in their front line instead of Martinelli and Havertz, Arsenal win that game. Newcastle had the quality in attack. That's where it matters. Quality in attack makes a big difference. But again, just praise Newcastle for playing well. Don't blame the ball. So people don't like Arsenal for that. But there's definitely other reasons. There's a jealousy reason. There's a bitterness reason. I'm jealous when Arsenal are good. Saka doesn't get nearly the amount of praise Foden does, despite clearly outperforming him for club and country. Calafiori is treated like a flop, despite being young, injury hit, and showing promise. People are writing off Calafiori already. Timber has been really good this season. No one speaks about it. Ben White has been unbelievable the last year. Obviously, he's been injured, but last season unbelievable. Didn't get enough credit for it. Declan Rice was loved at West Ham. He now goes and gets underrated at Arsenal. He was unbelievable at West Ham. He goes to Arsenal. Certain people don't rate him now. There was outrage when Saka was picked for England. Now there's outrage when Lewis Skelly's picked for England. We get this at Man United. Liverpool get this as well. But there's definitely okay, Gabriel and Saliba have been amazing, but they won't talk about how good Gabriel and Saliba had been last season. But if Ruben Diaz and Akanji were that good, they would get a lot of talk about it. It's the way it works, you know. Bukayo Saka's been incredible, but Phil Foden has one good game, and all the talk will be on Phil Foden. There's definitely a slight media agenda in the way that they report. If Arteta does something, if Arsenal does something, because they know it'll get clicks, they know it'll get interactions, the media will lap it up for clicks, clickbait it for clicks, to drive negativity towards Arsenal. Even Declan Rice comparing Tuchel to Arteta's gone out of hand. You know, Tuchel won the Champions League with Havertz, Werner, and who was the other one? I can't remember who it was. But Tuchel won the Premier League. Havertz, Werner, Mount, not the Premier League, the Champions League, with not the best team in the world. Chilwell was in there as well. Tuchel was an unbelievable manager, and he won a lot of big trophies, and Arteta hasn't done that yet. But Declan Rice was comparing Arteta to Tuchel in the sense of they think very tactically, whereas Southgate wasn't as tactically maybe good as them. That doesn't mean that Arteta is as good as Tuchel, it just means that he's a tactical guy. And again, that get lapped up and hate. But I think it was Arsenal beat City 5-1. There was no talk about how good Arsenal had been. You know, Wanyeri coming on the goal, Lewis Skelly's performance. It was on Lewis Skelly's celebration, not his performance. It was negativity on his celebration and not talk on Lewis Skelly's performance. And had that been Phil Foden doing that, they wouldn't be talking about Phil Foden's celebration. They would be talking about his performance. And we get this at Manchester United. You'll get that at Liverpool. So there's definitely hate. And I think Arsenal probably right now are the most hated team. I don't like Arsenal. I don't like Liverpool. I don't like City. But I feel like Arsenal's the most hated right now. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.